Have you ever woken up determined to change, full of good intentions, planning the perfect day? But before you know it, you've been scrolling through your phone's feed for an hour, your mind numb, and the feeling of frustration building up? You're not alone, and more importantly, it's not your fault. The truth is, there's an invisible mechanism inside your brain, programmed to sabotage your good intentions before they even become actions. This mechanism has a clear goal: to avoid discomfort at all costs, even if that comfort keeps you stuck in the same place. And that's where the problem lies. You promise you'll change, but the impulse to postpone, to avoid, to get distracted, wins. Then you blame yourself, judge yourself, and reinforce the idea that maybe you just aren't disciplined enough. But what if I told you that discipline isn't a matter of strength, but of neurological functioning and emotional environment? In this video, you'll understand how your brain sabotages your discipline, why procrastination seems so irresistible, and, most importantly, how to change it in a gentle, conscious, and sustainable way, using what neuroscience and human connection have already proven. Prepare to see procrastination from a different angle, and the most transformative point is yet to come. Why your brain protects you by making you procrastinate. To understand why you procrastinate, you first need to understand how your brain was programmed to protect you. Imagine the brain as a defense center that responds to the environment based on a single criterion. Is this safe or dangerous? And believe me, any task that involves effort, discomfort, exposure, or emotional risk is perceived neurologically as a potential threat. That's where the internal saboteurs come in. These saboteurs aren't enemies. They are outdated self-protection mechanisms. They emerge as inner voices saying, "You won't be able to do it. You can do it later. It's not the right time." In reality, the brain is trying to prevent you from feeling bad, but ironically, this protection causes frustration and paralysis. One of the biggest villains in this process is what neuroscientists call the immediate reward loop. Whenever you avoid a task and distract yourself with something pleasurable, like social media or food, the brain releases dopamine. The result? You reinforce the habit of procrastinating. And worse, this activates the guilt loop, which undermines your self-esteem and leaves you even more vulnerable to saboteurs. But the good news is that this can be reversed. So, before trying to force focus, it's essential to understand why your brain leads you to the opposite of what you desire. And the answer starts to become clearer in the next point. The problem with forcing discipline. If you grew up hearing phrases like, "Focus is a matter of willpower," or "Discipline is for those who truly try," you might have already tried to force yourself to be productive based on pressure and guilt. But here's the problem. The human brain doesn't respond well to constant pressure. It's driven by a defense system that interprets internal demands as external threats. Every time you force yourself to do something out of anger at yourself or shame for not having done it sooner, your mind activates survival mode, not action mode. The result? Resistance, procrastination, and a weariness that isn't just physical, it's a mind in conflict with itself. That's why so many people fail with productivity methods based on rigid goals and punishment. They ignore the emotional and biological factors that govern behavior. The alternative? Here we enter the concept of gentle discipline, an approach based on understanding, not coercion. Instead of fighting against impulses, you learn to redirect them with kindness, creating a lighter, more achievable routine. So, instead of asking yourself, "Why am I so weak?" you start asking, "How can I make this gentler so my brain works with me and not against me?" And one of the most effective ways to do this is through conscious micro-adjustments to your daily routine. That's exactly what we'll talk about next. The power of conscious micro-routines. Imagine starting the day calmly, aware of your thoughts, and without the weight of an overwhelming to-do list. Seem like a fantasy? It's not. It's neuroscience applied with intention. And the name for this is a mindful routine, a sequence of small, conscious rituals that reprogram the brain to shift from reactive mode to constructive mode. When you wake up and immediately grab your phone, you activate a distraction circuit that weakens your focus for the following hours. But if, instead, you start the day with mindfulness, like a minute of deep breathing, an intentional glass of water, or simply opening the window and feeling the air on your face. Your brain receives a signal of safety and control. This changes everything. Neuroscience shows that small conscious breaks throughout the day help reduce levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, increase activation of the prefrontal cortex, responsible for decision-making and planning, and strengthen the self-regulation system. Want a practical example? Imagine you're about to procrastinate. Before giving in, you do the following. Close your eyes for 30 seconds. Inhale deeply, feeling the air in your abdomen. Exhale slowly while mentally repeating, I can start small, just 2 minutes. This short break interrupts the automatic procrastination cycle. You're no longer fighting the impulse. You are consciously dialoguing with it. And the best part? It's cumulative. The more you apply these micro practices, the more your brain associates action with ease, not suffering. But there's still one essential ingredient missing for this transformation to be sustainable. So, in the next chapter, we'll talk about the strength that comes from connecting with other people. The strength of not being alone. There's a silent idea that destroys many transformation journeys. The idea that you have to overcome everything alone. But science says otherwise. Your brain has been shaped over thousands of years to cooperate, share, and belong. Social neuroscience shows that a sense of belonging activates the same brain circuits as motivation and reward. In other words, when you connect with someone who shares the same goal or challenge, your brain understands that it's no longer at risk. It's part of a network, and that changes everything. Want to beat procrastination? Create an environment where small victories are celebrated as a group, where vulnerability isn't weakness, but a starting point. You know that moment when you feel ashamed of being stuck? When you share that with someone who understands, the shame dissolves and gives way to courage. It's as if, by hearing yourself out loud, something in you says, I'm not a failure, I'm human, and I'm not alone. That's why one of the most effective strategies for reprogramming habits is to join an accountability community. A group where each person shares real goals and supports the progress of others. And it doesn't have to be something large or formal. It can start with a message to a trusted friend saying, can you help me stay focused on this goal this week? Or you can join forums, online groups, or even create your own circle of micro wins. But the transformation only truly happens when concrete actions come into play. So, in the next chapter, we'll give you 3 practical neuroscience-based strategies to deactivate the procrastination cycle and start taking action in a possible, gentle, and lasting way. 3. Practical neuroscience-based techniques. Now that you understand why your brain procrastinates and how connection and consciousness create a more favorable environment for action, it's time to apply this in a practical and strategic way. Here are 3 simple techniques, validated by neuroscience, to interrupt the procrastination cycle the moment it appears. 1. The 5-second technique with regulating breath. This technique combines quick action with emotional regulation. It works like this. When you notice the urge to postpone a task, count down from 5 to 1 in your head. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. On go, inhale deeply for 4 seconds, hold your breath for 4, and exhale for 6. Then tell yourself, I'll just start. I don't have to finish. This pattern reduces activity in the amygdala, the fear region, and activates the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for conscious decisions. 2. The 2-minute ritual with a micro win. Our brain needs immediate evidence of progress. So choose an action that takes no more than 2 minutes but is directly linked to your goal. Examples. Open the project document and write the first sentence. Put on your workout clothes and walk up the stairs in your house. Wash a single dish to start cleaning the sink. By completing this micro-action, you activate the dopaminergic system, and the brain registers the behavior as pleasurable, even if it's small. 3. Sharing goals with a support group. We've already talked about community, but now it's time to use it as a strategic tool. Choose a trusted person or group. Share a small, clear goal with a date and an intention. Ask that person to simply check in with you in 2 days. Hey, how did it go with that goal? According to accountability studies, this simple social expectation increases the chance of completing a task by up to 65%. These 3 strategies, when used together, create a leveraging effect. You act even without motivation. You achieve small wins that create momentum. You feel supported, like you belong, and capable, but understanding isn't enough. So in the next and final chapter, I'll invite you to choose and apply one of these strategies concretely, starting today. Your turn to take action. At this point, you've understood that procrastination isn't laziness, it's miscalibrated protection. Your brain is trying to save you from discomfort, but it ends up pushing you away from what really matters. You've also seen that forcing it doesn't work. The key lies in conscious kindness, building small routines with presence, and above all, the strength of walking with others. Now, it's your turn. Choose one of these 3 practical challenges to apply today. 1. For those who are stuck, use the 5-second technique, plus breathing. The next time you feel like procrastinating, stop, breathe, and count. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go. 2. For those who feel they never start anything, do the 2-minute micro win. Pick a task and start just for 2 minutes. Just start. 3. For those who feel they're in this alone, send a message to someone you trust. Share a small goal and say, "Can you ask me in 2 days if I got this done?" You don't have to be perfect. You just need to take one conscious step today. And remember, true discipline isn't born from pressure. It flourishes in clarity, ease, and connection. If this content made sense to you, share it with someone who is also struggling with their own mind. It might be exactly what they need to get started.